Hello everyone, Carolyn's asked me to do a little video for all those that were really interested in individual learning plans and how they work at Croydon Community School. I've done a little video first of all to show you who I am and a little bit about me.
My name is Amy McAninley and I have been teaching for 7 years. I have been in a range of different schools all across Melbourne. I've worked in a mainstream school. I'm a qualified art and media teacher and VCAL teacher. I have worked in Aboriginal school and I currently work at a school with young people who cannot be in a mainstream setting, so they face significant barriers to their education, and I'm really passionate about inclusive education for all young people. So my school is a secondary school, but we work with young people who are particularly far behind in their learning, and that's because of a range of barriers for what stopped them to be at primary school a lot of the time and to be in high schools. We work on a very different model. It's quite a primary-based model that the students are in the classroom for the majority of the day. They each have their own spot, and it feels quite like a homeroom. So the kids get to put their own stuff up on the walls, and it's very much about them. They work on individual learning plans, hence why I'm so passionate about these subjects. And they get to display their artwork, and they get to display their learning in any way they would like.
Loves this exercise.
It's your turn, Neil. I don't think you're getting out of this.
Good point. Now, do you want me to go really fast?
Yes. No. Yes.
I'll go into the videos. Now, don't freak out. I said I was freaking out. Just stay calm. Okay, jump, pivot. Good, Amy. Nice. Well done.
We're in the outer east of Melbourne, and that's where I have my full-time job as a teacher and work in the leadership team at the school. And we work with the young people who are often very disengaged from education. So a lot of my interest in terms of education lies in re-engaging young people into education, inclusive education, hence why I'm working this subject. As I said before, I have worked in an Aboriginal school, so Aboriginal affairs and Aboriginal education is a big passion of mine. But outside of that, I'm very interested in food. I love food and wine. And my favourite food is cheese, so that's a big interest of mine. A big hobby of mine is netball. I really enjoy playing netball. I also run a netball club in the outer east of Melbourne, so that takes up quite a bit of my time as well. I've been forced to take a semi-retirement from playing the sport, so I'm on the sidelines doing a bit of coaching and mentoring and running the club as well. So they're big interests of mine, that and hanging out with my dog on the couch watching Netflix.
So that's a little bit about me and what I do and the school. For those that were wondering about how our actual timetable works, I particularly run the junior advisory, which is what our classrooms are called. And the young people work in those classrooms about 90% of the day. So here you can see the timetable for my classroom. The light blue there represents our ILPS, or individual learning plans. And as you may have seen last week, our young people work on these plans and they're all passion-based, so each student is on a different learning plan. We do have smaller class sizes, so in my class at the moment I've got 12 students, and that'll probably get up to about 15 by the end of the year. And then we build other parts in, so where you see the words QR, that's quantitative reasoning, and that's specific maths groups. So Neil, who's the other teacher in my classroom, comes in and does little groups. We have a Dogs for Life program, which is a therapy program where we're training therapy dogs to work with other people in the community that may have, for example, autism, or they may be seeing eye dogs, or there's a range of things that those dogs go and do for people who need them. We have specific literacy programs, so Fast for Word is a specific literacy program, as is Writer's Workshop, and we build our timetable around the needs of our students. But they also get time to do other things. On a Friday, you'll see that there's entrepreneur and electives, so students can elect into that, and that's where they're actually mingling with the other groups of students as well. And we've also, within this, they're not just working individually, but we purposely set up times for them to build social skills and work with other students within the classroom and outside of the classroom. And it's one-on-one, so there's always two two adults in the classroom. There's a teacher and an educational assistant in the classroom at all times, and we work one-on-one with each student, and we're setting up other activities for other students while we're working with one-on-one and conferencing with each student. And each classroom is going to look differently depending on the needs of the students in that classroom. So each timetable for each class is going to look differently as well. But that's just an idea of how I've set up my particular classroom for my students. So this is a bit more of the context. So we've got 6 advisories or classrooms, and we've got about 90 students enrolled at the campus. We've got no more than 17 students enrolled in the campus. We've got years 7 to 10, and then we've got VCAL. We don't run VCE, we only run VCAL. And it's generally students that are not able to be or choose not to be in a mainstream school, and we don't have a particular area that we draw from. We draw from quite a range of geographical areas. We have students that travel over an hour to get to our school, and about 25% of our students are funded by the Program for Students with Disabilities, which means that at least 25% of our students actually have to have an individual learning plan. It's just that all of our students, we think, learn best from having an individual learning plan. So it's a choice that us as a school have made, and it's also under our educational model. That's how it works. Here's our little vision. This is what we believe. This is how we put it to our students, and this is sort of our vision.
Your future is our future. We want to see each and every one of you succeed. The staff feel so strongly about this that we have all pledged to help you have the future that you deserve.
I pledge
that I will
respect each of you as an individual.
I will challenge you
I will challenge you
I will challenge you.
to find and pursue your passion.
and seek new opportunities.
I will guide you.
I will guide you to use your head.
Open your heart and extend your hand to explore deeper learning.
I refuse to accept excuses.
I refuse to accept excuses.
I refuse to accept excuses.
You deserve a future bigger, more rewarding
Than you ever thought possible.
This is our pledge to you.
And this is really what we live and breathe every single day for our young people, and what we remind them of every single day. As I said before, we work under the Big Picture Education, and you can check that out at bigpicture.org.au. And this is something you would have seen if you're at last week's class, our Big Picture Learning Goals, which are the 5 goals we work under that fit under the Victorian curriculum. And that's what we work for. That's what we report under. We're a government school, so that's how we report. And it requires us as teachers, we're classed as generalist teachers. So yes, we did go through, and I'm an art and media teacher, but I have some understanding, at least some understanding of all of these areas now, because I've been referring back to the Victorian curriculum documents, and I have a vague understanding of at least all of these areas. And if not, there's a really lovely search bar on the Victorian curriculum website that I can search. Oh, I've got a student that's really interested in space, and they're looking at comets. Okay, cool, I'm going to type in comets. Where does that sit in the Victorian curriculum? And if it's not at the level that they're at, like if it's not at year 7 they learn about comets, it might be higher or lower. It's at least the science skills that I can work at the science skills. They can work at level at the science skills, even if it's not the particular knowledge. So we work it in that way as well. It is personalised learning. So we develop with their advisor, their teacher, their parents and carers, and if they have any mentors outside the classroom, and they have support from their peers as well. There's often learning, co-constructed learning happening in the classroom with peers. They're reviewed on a regular basis. So every day, really, we're reviewing their ILP, if not every few days. And they change their ILP every term. Sometimes you do get a student that is stuck on a particular topic, and we just kind of tweak that topic about finding something deeper, and deeper learning is really what we're after. And they have very specific identified goals. We also have intensive literacy programs that run alongside that for students that we identify as needing that. And it is passion based, so I've learned about some very interesting things I never thought I would learn about, particularly about Pokemon. Wasn't one of my passions, but I've learnt lots of interesting things about Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, all those sorts of things, and you do genuinely get an interest in them. There's some students that come in with really different and unique passions. There's a student learning about Vikings. I'm getting really into that at the moment, and it is really interesting, and they get some really unique ideas, and they get really passionate about it, and they get excited, and then you get excited and really passionate about it. It's a great way to build relationships, and it's a great way to be able to work with a young person as well. Our assessment works where the student then gets to exhibit their work, all the things that they've done over the term, they get to exhibit it at the end of the term. This is a picture of a student who was using me as their model. Her learning was on makeup, so she was actually doing a demonstration in her exhibition of how to apply makeup, which was kind of cool. So it's authentic assessments. This is also something you may have seen in last week's tute. And it's an example of how the ILP actually works for us and what it looks like. This is a young person in my class who is looking at carpentry, and he is almost old enough to be able to go out to TAFE. So part of VCAL is that they do get a TAFE course, and his numeracy and literacy skills are about on target to be able to do that as well. So this is part of where he started in terms of looking at literacy and starting with making as simple as making a list of some of the tools that he might need. Something I mentioned before is that we do other literacy tasks, and we do a lot of conferencing as well. So we do a program called Writers Workshop. That's a whole school program, and that's something that we researched really heavily before we implemented it. And it might look a little bit different in each classroom, but it's a whole school approach that we do as well. The last little part of this is also learning through internships. So the end goal is that young people are going to be out in the real world applying what they're learning at school in the real world. So we start off by the young people being able to think about an industry or job they might like, or even something they're a little bit interested in. And they get to ask questions. We find somebody in the real world that's doing that job or that's in that industry, and we try and make a connection with them and just see if we can ask them some questions about what they do. And the young person can actually construct those questions, and they get to ask the person in the industry those questions. We then hopefully can get the young person to go out to the job site and do what's called a shadow day. So basically just follow them around for a day. And we hope that that might lead into something like an internship. So it's similar to work experience, but it's a little bit more ongoing. So this is an example where Pat, which is the photo here, is on an internship at Manningham City Council. And the idea is that it's a two-way thing. So Pat was able to construct a database for Manningham City Council. So it was a need that Manningham City Council had, and it showcased Pat's skills. So he got some experience in the real world, being able to utilise some of his skills, and Manningham City Council got something out of it as well. So it's a two-way thing, and that's kind of the thing that we want. Real world skills, relevance to the young person, something they can put on their resume, something they could talk about in an interview when they went for a real job, and then something that they could say that they've done. And that's kind of our end goal, being able to make this work relevant for young people in the real world, and that's how the ILPs feed into that as well. If you have any questions or you really want to have a chat to me about this, please feel free to email me. Carolyn doesn't have all of these answers. Obviously, she's doing really well at trying to field some of these questions for you, but please feel free to email me as well. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully it answered a few more of your questions.